The judge dismissed it and said there's no case here.
It really is an impactful and powerful piece of evidence that's going to go against Lively.
Blake Lively, if they find that she just was dishonest and lied on one single point of evidence in this case, in her testimony, the jury instruction says that they are allowed to discount her entire testimony.
Blake Lively is throwing tantrum fits everywhere after a judge's shocking decision. To be honest, she's the architect of her own disaster here.
So her testimony is super important in this case. And if you can show the jury that she's lied, juries don't like liars.
Now, with the public eye turned against her, even the judge struggles to see a good side to her. Turns out it's non-existent.
She wants different rules for her than she wants for Baldoni and his team, which I don't think the judge will agree with.
And we both know for months Lively had been maneuvering through this lawsuit with carefully crafted PR moves working overtime to maintain control of the narrative. She had been playing the victim, trying to paint Baldoni as the aggressor. The problem, the one responsible for everything going wrong.
Trials are about the truth, and juries want the truth. And if you lie to them, they will hold it against you.
But when the judge ruled against her in a way that no one saw coming, it shattered that entire illusion. The specifics of the decision were nothing short of humiliating. Not only did it weaken her case, but it also exposed the shaky foundation of the allegations she had been leaning on so heavily. That's
Blake Lively's PR firm begging to be let go of the case. I think actually they may have the worst messages of all.
The media was already circling like vultures, waiting for something to tip the scales. And this, was it overnight the conversation shifted from poor Blake to what is sheerly hiding the ruling, sent the internet into overdrive, social media exploded with. Reactions news outlets cram led to push out their interpretations, and legal analysts were picking apart every detail.
If I were her attorney, I'd want to get out of this case before she has to sit for deposition, not just because it might be bad for the case, but PR-wise, it's not going to be good.
And while some tried to defend Lively, the overwhelming response was brutal. This was the kind of ruling that changed the public's perception. In real time, it wasn't just another legal loss. It was a public humiliation. And Blake, who had spent her career carefully curating an image of control and perfection, could not handle.
Every expert's going to skew it towards their view of the case. And then the penultimate question to the expert is, but you agree with me, the jury is able to determine for themselves what this video is showing.
Meltdown was immediate. The sources who have been closely following her behavior since the lawsuit began described her response as frantic, desperate, a total unraveling of the calm and collected persona she'd worked so hard to maintain. She wasn't just frustrated, she was livid.
Because jurors are very bright, especially collectively. When they're all together, they all come from varied backgrounds. They're the smartest people in the room collectively, and they generally get the right result. So the experts here are going to be important, but ultimately this video is damning, and I think you're right to say, or I was right to say, this is some of the most damning evidence in this case.
Entire PR team was suddenly in full CR mode, scrambling to shift the focusals, where but no amount of damage control could erase the fact that Hollywood was finally seeing through her. And this wasn't just about the lawsuit. Anymore, the public backlash had already been brewing, but after the judge's decision, it exploded into something even bigger. It wasn't just a legal setback, it was a turning point in how people viewed Blake Lively as a whole.
I think that's part of the PR battle. From a legal perspective, there would be no reason to put a statement by an expert in your complaint. It won't be shown to the jury. When you do go to trial, each side is going to have experts that they hire. Everybody has hired experts, and really experts are just hired guns.
Narrative was shifting rapidly, and not in her favor for years. She had been praised as one of Hollywood's golden girls, the charming, sophisticated actress who always seemed to be in control. But now she was being seen for what Shirley was, a manipulative force who had spent years pulling strings behind the scenes to keep her power intact because
it's pointless. This is only for public consumption.
Right.
And it's only to try to take back the narrative that Baldoni's team has done a very good job of. And perhaps the reason they've done such a good job on the Baldoni's team is because they have more truth on their side than perhaps Blake Lively does.
Social media numbers tell the whole story the moment this ruling hit. People started jumping ship. In the last few months alone, her follower has plummeted at a speed no one saw coming.
Both sides are trying to kill each other, and right now Baldoni's team is winning hands down. Public opinion is completely behind him. You've got even conservative bloggers. Candace Owens comes to mind, Meghan McCain. These are very conservative people, and they are completely behind Baldoni and his team and what's happening here.
We're not talking a small dip, we're talking record-breaking losses. Hundreds of thousands of people are unfollowing. And with every new update about this lawsuit, that number keeps growing. At first, some tried to justify it, calling it a temporary setback. But the reality is, clear Blake Lively is becoming Hollywood's least favorite person, and she only has herself to blame.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they need to listen to their lawyers, and they need to resolve this case if possible.
Justin Baldoni, on the other hand, is experiencing the exact opposite. While Blake is losing support by the minute, Baldoni is seeing an influx of new followers, new supporters, and new allies.
You're basically saying you're a liar. You misrepresent who you are. In the court of public opinion, they've lost.
People who once dismissed his side of the story are now taking a second look, realizing that maybe, just maybe, he wasteling the truth all along. The numbers don't lie, and the contrast is glaring. It's a complete PR nightmare for Lively, one that no amount of staged appearances or carefully crafted statements can fix.
This is insane. What are you talking about? She genuinely is not aware of how insane she sounds.
But the backlash isn't just happening online. Hollywood itself is distancing from her, and fast directors, producers, and executives who once saw her as an asset are now treating her like a liability. There's
a lot of comments that she puts in here that you're just like, why would you want to take over someone's movie? The outfits in this end are so out of touch. No, we don't want to watch bullies like Blake.
And let's be real, Hollywood doesn't operate on morality. It doesn't care who's right or wrong in a legal dispute. What Hollywood cares about is money, reputation, and power. And right now, Blake Lively is officially bad for business.
That's insane, and that's crazy. And this is a reason why I think in the future people are just not going to work with her, because it's starting to add up. People are realizing that this is a pathology.
I&D Heisery insiders are saying that the hesitation to work with her is growing by the day. No one wants to be the one to bet on an actress whose public perception is plummeting. No one wants to be associated with someone who's making more headlines for scandals than for actual work.
While Team Blake Lively may think they have the upper hand, sources say she has no idea what's coming regarding her battle with Justin Baldoni.
And more importantly, no one wants to deal with the kind of control freak behavior that Blake has become infamous for. Because let's not forget, this isn't just about the lawsuit. This is about a pattern of behavior that has been quietly tolerated for years, but is now coming to light in the worst way possible.
One likely to be remembered as the spark that ignited the next chapter of the Me Too movement. On the other side is a billionaire producer, a novice filmmaker, director, and a small Baha'i, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I think it's Baha'i employees who believe they are simply living up to the moral code of their faith.
There have been whispers about her behind-the-scenes antics for a long time. The way she takes over projects, overrides directors, forces script changes, and makes sure that she's the center of everything. The way she manipulates situations to keep the upper hand, the way she controls narrative, ensuring that everything goes exactly the way she wants it to, and until now, she had gotten away with it. But this legal battle has exposed her in a way that no one can ignore. The reality is this: lawsuit isn't just a legal fight anymore. It's a full-blown reckoning for Blake Lively. She's not just fighting in court. She's fighting for her career, her reputation, and whatever remains of the image she's built over the years. And at the rate things are going, she's losing on all fronts.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have hired former CIA agents with a proven track record of lying to the public, gaslighting the public.
If she thought hiring a former CAPR specialist would save her, she was wrong.
She's quietly working with Nick Shapiro, the CIA's former deputy chief of staff and senior advisor to former director John Brennan. So this guy, high up, just about as high up as you could possibly get if he is the deputy chief of staff.
If she thought showing up at film festivals and pretending everything was fine would help, she was wrong. And if she thought the industry would continue to protect her, despite all this, she was dead wrong. This judge's ruling didn't just hurt her, case it, put the final nail in the coffin of an already crumbling career.
The CIA, after JFK was shot in the 60s, put journalists in the mainstream media on their payroll. And they did this in order to control the narrative, right? Which is another way of saying to gaslight the public, to stop the public from asking certain questions.
Now, the real question is, how much worse can it get? Because if this is the way things are going, we might just be watching one of the most dramatic downfalls Hollywood has seen in years. and no amount of stag smiles or red carpet appearances can change. That and what happened recently made the whole thing even worse. Yeah, I'm talking about the moment when Blake Lively arrived at South by Southwest on March 9th, 2025.
If you're a good journalist and you're at that red carpet, your duty is to ask people about Blake Lively being there and the whole situation.
She walked the red carpet with the confidence of someone who either didn't realize or refused to acknowledge the storm raging around her with the lawsuit against Justin Baldoni turning into a public disaster, her reputation sinking faster than ever, and her credibility getting shredded by the media. Most people assumed she would lay low, maybe even skip the event altogether.
Oh my God, I'm so happy and I'm so lucky and I love my fans so much and I love the journalists, I love the photographers. I was like, wow. She walked up to fans, took selfies and hugged people and were like, oh, don't take your selfie like this, put it on video mode and it's much better. She was so sweet.
But Blake had other plans. Instead of her retreating, she walked straight into the spotlight, determined to prove that she was still in control. It wasn't just a public appearance, it was a statement. But it was a statement that backfired spectacularly.
It's like she's trying to tell us that we were all wrong and she's a really nice person because now we can see that she is.
From the moment she stepped onto the red carpet, the tension was thick. Normally, these events are all about excitement and salesixation. But this time, it felt like something else. Entirely, the cameras were rolling, but the usual energy just wasn't there.
And she was friends with people just hanging out there and gave this guy a hug and it was like, oh, this is so nice.
Every reporter, every fan, every industry insider watching knew that this was more than just another movie premiere. This was Blake trying to convince the world that nothing was wrong. She posed for photos, smiled for the cameras, and even made an effort to engage with fans. But it was clear that something was off. The usually effortless charm felt forced, almost mechanical, and no matter how hard, she tried to act like everything was fine. The cracks were visible.
Blake know that they weren't exactly on her side of the whole situation going on with him. Someone held up a sign that said, "Justice for Justin Baldoni, Blake lied," and they were also wearing a shirt that says, "Blake lied."
And then came the moment that turned the night into a spectacle. As Blake made her way through the red carpet past the flashing cameras and strategically planned interactions, a protester broke through the polished facade holding up a sign that read "Justice for Justin Baldoni." Blake lied. The message was impossible to ignore. The protester, later identified as YouTuber and social commentator Colonel CTS, stood just off to the side, making it clear that not everyone in attendance was there to celebrate.
People commented and said, "Ooh, she hates her. Girl couldn't fake it. Oh, you know," are the exact words I say when someone asks me how I am and I am barely hanging on. "Oh, you know," is the new "here, damn."
The presence of a protester at such a high-profile event would have been embarrassing enough on its own. But the way Blake handled it made things even worse. Instead of ignoring it or addressing it with grace, she looked visibly rattled. It was only for a split second, but in that moment, the mask slipped. The cameras caught it, and soon enough, the footage was everywhere.
I want to ask you, how do you feel like how does it feel like the movie's being impacted kind of by everything happening around going on in the world?
Why, what happened? I did ayahuasca and the last year of my life is just gone, but I've heard the movie's amazing.
Wait, thank you.
Meanwhile, the media was eating this up. Every entertainment outlet from TMZ to Variety to the Daily Mail had reporters at the event analyzing her body language. Her expressions, her interactions, the headlines practically wrote themselves. Blake Lively tries to save face amid legal scandal. Protester calls out Blake Lively on red carpet. Hollywood's darling, no more. Lively faces backlash at SexSW. The scrutiny was relentless. And then there was the cast interaction, or more accurately, the lack of interaction. Anna Kendrick, Blake's co-star in A Simple Favor 2, was also at the event. And if anyone thought they would put on a united front, they were sorely mistaken. If anything, Kendrick seemed determined to put as much distance between herself and Lively as possible.
She just like threw this question at her saying like, how was it to work with Anna again? And she said this.
Like, what does it mean to be back with Anna?
Oh, it's the best. I'm so happy.
When asked about working with Blake, again, Anna's response was short-clipped and completely devoid of any warmth. "Oh, you know," she said before quickly shifting gears and moving on. It was the kind of answer you give when you don't want to lie, but you also don't want to tell the truth, and everyone picked up on it.
Then someone asked Anna Kendrick the same thing. What was it like being back with Blake? And she was like running away saying, oh, you know.
Anna, what does it mean to be working with Blake again?
Oh, talking about you.
Yeah, she wasn't having it at all.
Internet had a field day. Dissecting that moment, comments flood. Let it in pointing out how Kendrick's response sounded like something you say about an ex. You're forced to work with. Girl couldn't fake it, one fan. Commented on TikTok, another wrote, oh you. No is the new, I'd rather not say the clip went viral within hours, racking up millions of views across platforms.